I'm Kurt Loder, and this is the news at night. The 5th annual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony will be held in New York City tomorrow night, this year honoring a group of performers and songwriters whose classic work spans the 50s through the 70s. The Who, the Kinks, the Four Tops, and Simon and Garfunkel are among this year's inductees, and right now here's a look at the whole bunch.
Whatever you do, don't try and grow old gracefully. It wouldn't suit you.
Pete, it's a sobering thought that you're going to be in this sort of hot shoe here, so, you know, someone else is going to wind you up like that. So.
The Who exploded onto the British scene exactly 25 years ago this month with I Can't Explain. Within months, they had charted in the States with the classic My Generation. They pioneered the rock opera form with A Quick One in 1967, and in subsequent years, the celebrated Tommy and Quadrophenia. The Who championed rock as art and teenage culture as a modern mythology. And with such bone-crunching albums as Live at Leeds and Who's Next, they helped map out a musical path that a succeeding generation of hard rock riffmongers would follow right up into the 90s. The Kinks, another London act, had preceded The Who onto the charts by a year with their first hit, You Really Got Me. That #1 British smash, together with its equally raucous follow-up, All Day and All of the Night, established the group, and especially lead guitarist Dave Davies, as rock riffmasters in their own right. But over the next 5 years, frontman and head songwriter Ray Davies emerged as a gifted miniaturist of everyday English life and love and eccentricity, with such luminous hits as Waterloo Sunset, Tired of Waiting for You, Sunny Afternoon, and in 1970, the cross-dressing classic Lola. And the band plays on to this very day, undeterred by advancing years.
I was an old man when I was 12. I was very worried when I was little. God, I'm going to be 19 next week. It's, in fact, Pete Quaife, the first bass player, left the band because he was 25. It felt like a fraud.
Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, two schoolmates from Queens, New York, scored their first very Everly Brothers-style hit in 1957 with a Simon ditty called Hey Schoolgirl. In 1965, they recorded an acoustic album called Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m., which featured a song called The Sounds of Silence. After a Columbia Records producer added bass, drums, and electric guitar to the track, it went to #1 and helped launch the mid-60s folk rock boom. Simon and Garfunkel's music rarely qualified as flat-out rock and roll, but it was music that college-educated rock fans could identify with, from the romantic anomie of I Am a Rock and Homeward Bound in the 60s, through Bridge Over Troubled Water and My Little Town in the early 70s.
I had heard word of mouth that we might be coming up. We do go back a whole bunch of years. And we did make our mark in the 60s. So I can't say I was shocked, but I am really thrilled, and I'm not a public relations guy who would say that if he weren't.
Formed in Detroit in the early 50s, the Four Tops, fronted by the powerful voice of Levi Stubbs, went on to become one of the artistic centerpieces of the golden age of Motown records in the 1960s. No musical summation of that remarkable decade would be complete without the inclusion of such Tops classics as Baby I Need Your Loving, Bernadette, It's the Same Old Song, Reach Out, I'll Be There, Standing in the Shadows of Love, and of course, I Can't Help Myself. Another Detroit singer, Hank Ballard, and his great band, the Midnighters, were early pioneers of sexual controversy in rock with their delightfully lewd 1954 R&B hits, Work With Me Annie and Annie Had a Baby. They went pop in 1959 with Teardrops on Your Letter, a bluesy ballad whose B-side, The Twist, quickly covered by Dick Clark protege Chubby Checker, launched rock's first indigenous dance craze. Ballard and the Midnighters went on to have hits with Finger Poppin' Time and Let's Go, Let's Go, Let's Go, and they're still performing to this day. New York native Walden Robert Casado, better known as Bobby Darin, started out as a straight teen idol rocker with such late 50s hits as Splish Splash, Queen of the Hop, and Dream Lover. Darin longed for the grown-up artistic legitimacy of a Frank Sinatra, however, and he nearly attained it with his finger-snapping 1959 cover of the three-penny opera song Mac the Knife. From the wilds of Newark, New Jersey came the Four Seasons, formed as a club act in the mid-50s and fronted by Frankie Valli's unearthly falsetto. This group represented the last flowering of white doo-wop on the pop charts, starting with Sherry in 1962 and continuing through through 1967 with such inimitable hits as Big Girls Don't Cry, Walk Like a Man, Dawn, Ronnie, and Ragdoll. Formed in Los Angeles in 1953 and led in their heyday by the flawless tenor of Tony Williams, the Platters were the great makeout group of the late 50s, a reputation established perhaps for all time by such classic ballads as Only You, My Prayer, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and their 1955 smash, The Great Pretender.
Pretending that you're still around.
Also being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year are two celebrated songwriting teams. The first consists of Eddie Holland, Lamont Dozier, and Brian Holland, who during their glory years at Motown from 1963 to 1966 wrote and produced 28 top 20 hits, including 12 number ones with the Supremes. The second team is that of Carole King and her ex-husband Jerry Goffin, one of the renowned Brill-building duos whose 60s hits include The Locomotion by Little Eva, Don't Bring Me Down by the Animals, and scores of other songs either recorded or covered by the Byrds, the Beatles, the Righteous Brothers, and Aretha Franklin. Three other artists being inducted as early influences on rock and roll: tent show blues singer Ma Rainey, electric guitar pioneer Charlie Christian, and the great New Orleans trumpet virtuoso Louis Armstrong. The Hall of Fame show, complete with all-star midnight jam session, will be held once again this year at Manhattan's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And at least one new Hall of Famer, Who frontman Roger Daltrey, will be back on the scene as an actor next month with the release of Mac the Knife, the latest film version of the Brecht-Weill stage hit, The Threepenny Opera. Sting, of course, starred in a new Broadway version of the show that closed on New Year's Eve amid a welter of bad reviews. The new movie, filmed more than a year ago in Budapest, stars Raul Julia as Mac and Daltrey as the street singer who actually performs the song Mac the Knife and who pops up throughout the proceedings to comment on the sordid storyline. We'll be seeing quite a bit of Daltrey the actor in the year ahead. He has two other films coming out, one a comedy called The Teddy Bear Habit, in which he plays the owner of a music store, the other an inner-city drama called Buddy Song, in which he plays a musician. Another brand new Hall of Fame act, Simon & Garfunkel, is being saluted by its record company this week with the release of a greatest hits box set called Collected Works. It consists of 58 digitally remastered songs from the 6 albums Simon & Garfunkel released between 1966 and 1970, ranging from such sensitive early hits as The Sounds of Silence and I Am a Rock, up through Scarborough Fair and Mrs. Robinson to Bridge Over Troubled Water, and including the folk rock nugget A Hazy Shade of Winter, recently covered by the Bangles. Collected Works is available in sets of 3 CDs or 3 cassettes. Sorry, no vinyl. We're going to break away very briefly, but we'll be right back with Joan Jett and a look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame building itself, or at least the empty plot of ground where it's supposed to be. Don't go away.